Welcome to Faith and Truth. If you think you know everything about ancient Egypt, think again. This video is about to rewrite what you thought was true. Ancient Egypt, the cradle of one of humanity's greatest civilizations. Its towering pyramids, enigmatic hieroglyphs, and monumental statues have awed the world for centuries. But here's a question few dare to ask. What was their DNA? Who were the people behind this legendary society? For years, scholars and scientists have debated, were the ancient Egyptians a single ethnic group, or was their heritage a complex web of migrations, intermarriages, and cultural exchanges? And the most intriguing question, what did they actually look like? Their skin tone, their genetic ties. How much do they resemble the Egyptians we know today? The answers might surprise you. Yeah, this isn't just a question about history, it's about identity. Ancient Egypt was a crossroads of humanity connecting Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Understanding their DNA helps us uncover not just the origins of a civilization, but the story of human connection, migration, and how diversity shaped one of the most enduring cultures in the world. In this video, we'll uncover the truths hidden in the DNA of ancient Egypt through groundbreaking research. You'll learn how migrations over thousands of years shaped their genetic makeup, the surprising links between ancient Egyptians and populations across 3 continents, the ongoing debates about their skin color, ethnicity, and how their story continues to influence modern discussions about identity. But that's not all. By diving into their DNA, we'll explore the bigger picture, what this tells us about human history, and why it matters more than ever today. So get ready. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a revelation. By the end of this video, you'll not only know the truth about ancient Egypt, but also see how their story resonates with the challenges and questions we face in the modern world. Let's begin by unraveling one of history's greatest mysteries. Who were the ancient Egyptians? Egypt, a land of diversity. Imagine a land where continents converge, where cultures meet and blend, and where history whispers through every grain of sand. This is ancient Egypt, not just the home of grand pyramids, but a vibrant crossroads of peoples and traditions. But here's the twist. What if ancient Egypt wasn't a single unified society, but instead a melting pot shaped by migrations and cultural exchanges over thousands of years? Picture this, the Nile River, stretching like a lifeline through a harsh desert, offered not just survival but a gateway. Egypt's geography positioned it perfectly, linking Africa, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. Traders, travelers, and migrants journeyed through this land, bringing with them their languages, traditions, and yes, their DNA. For centuries, merchants carried goods along the Nile, while armies marched through its borders. From sub-Saharan Africa to Mesopotamia, from the Levant to Greece, every group left a trace in Egypt's culture and people. Each migration didn't just bring new ideas, it reshaped the genetic fabric of this ancient land. Think about it. Northern Egypt, with its open coasts and proximity to the Mediterranean, absorbed influences from Semitic and Mediterranean peoples. Meanwhile, in the south, closer to Nubia and the Sudan, sub-Saharan African traits were more prominent. Let's zoom in on a fascinating detail: the artworks left behind by the ancient Egyptians themselves. Their murals and statues depict people with a spectrum of skin tones, from light brown to deep bronze. These images weren't random, they were reflections of the incredible diversity that defined Egypt. But diversity isn't just skin deep. The people of northern Egypt carried genetic markers from the Levant and the Mediterranean. In contrast, southern Egyptians exhibited genetic links to sub-Saharan Africa. This genetic mosaic reveals a civilization shaped by waves of migration, trade, and intermarriage, a society as dynamic as the Nile itself. Egypt's diversity even echoes through the pages of Scripture. The Bible speaks of Egypt as a place of refuge, a land where people sought safety and new beginnings. When Joseph brought his family to Egypt during a famine, Genesis 47:11, they found themselves part of a thriving, multicultural society. This wasn't a land of isolation, but one where connections were built between nations. Could this biblical narrative hint at the deeper truth of Egypt's history, a land so diverse that it welcomed and absorbed countless peoples across the ages? Now here's the big question. How do we pinpoint the genetic identity of the ancient Egyptians with such rich diversity? What does this mosaic of traits and influences tell us about the true identity of one of the most iconic civilizations in human history? Understanding ancient Egypt isn't just about looking at its monuments. It's about seeing the people who lived there, the lives they led, and the stories written in their DNA. To truly uncover these mysteries, we need science. We need to dig deeper into the genetic evidence itself. What do ancient mummies reveal about the DNA of the Egyptians? How did migrations and intermarriage shape their genetic legacy? Let's delve into the DNA evidence and uncover the answers. What if I told you that beneath the sands of Egypt, the DNA of its ancient inhabitants holds secrets that could rewrite what we thought we knew about one of history's greatest civilizations? Secrets that reveal not only who the ancient Egyptians were, but also how their lives intertwined with migrations, cultures, and peoples from across 3 continents. Let's uncover these groundbreaking findings together. In 2017, a team of researchers from the prestigious Max Planck Institute in Germany embarked on an ambitious mission. They analyzed the DNA of over 90 ancient Egyptian mummies, spanning nearly 2,000 years of history. Their goal? To answer questions that had puzzled scholars and ignited debates for centuries. The team focused on mitochondrial DNA, a resilient genetic material passed down from mothers to their children. This choice was deliberate. Mitochondrial DNA is uniquely stable and provides a reliable glimpse into ancient genetic lineages. What they found was extraordinary. Their analysis revealed strong genetic links between the ancient Egyptians and populations from the Middle East, particularly from regions now known as Mesopotamia and Palestine. These findings challenged the long-held belief that ancient Egypt was isolated and homogeneous. Instead, they painted a picture of a civilization shaped by waves of migrations and cultural exchanges, connecting Egypt to the broader world. The New Kingdom era, circa 1550–1070 BCE. During this golden age of Egyptian history, Egypt expanded its borders and connected with neighboring regions. DNA evidence shows that this period saw a blending of native Egyptian genetics with influences from the Levant and the Mediterranean. This was the age of grandeur, the era of temples, pharaohs, and global connections. The Hellenistic period, circa 332 BCE to 30 BCE. Fast forward to the Hellenistic period, after Alexander the Great conquered Egypt. Genetic evidence reveals a striking shift. Significant contributions from Anatolian Neolithic farmers and Greek settlers. This period of intense cultural fusion introduced new customs, beliefs, and even genes into the Egyptian population, forever altering its makeup. But what about the question that ignites the most heated debates? What did the ancient Egyptians look like? Were they dark-skinned, light-skinned, or somewhere in between? The DNA findings provide fascinating insights. Ancient Egyptians likely had skin tones ranging from light to medium brown, reflecting their position at the crossroads of Africa and the Middle East. This aligns with historical depictions found in their art, murals and statues showing a variety of skin tones, consistent with a population that was diverse yet distinctly Egyptian. However, the question of skin color is more than just biology. It's about identity. Some argue that ancient Egyptians were primarily African, while others emphasize their Middle Eastern connections. The truth, as revealed by their DNA, is that they were a blend. A people shaped by migrations, cultural interactions, and the complex history of their land. But DNA is only part of the story. To truly understand the ancient Egyptians, we need to dive deeper into the cultural and historical records. What do their myths, art, and connections to biblical narratives tell us about their identity? Let's continue unraveling this fascinating mystery. Ancient Egypt wasn't just a kingdom, it was a crossroads of worlds. Picture it. Vast deserts stretching into the unknown, the Nile River carving through the land like a lifeline, and peoples from every corner of the ancient world converging here. But who were they, and how did their stories, cultures, and bloodlines intertwine to create the Egypt we revere today? 1. The Hyksos, foreign rulers, lasting impact. At 1900 BCE, a new wave of settlers appeared in Egypt, the Hyksos. These Semitic peoples, originating from the Middle East, brought with them advanced technologies like chariots and bronze weaponry. While their reign was short-lived, the Hyksos intermarried with Egyptians, leaving behind not just tools but their DNA. They became part of Egypt's genetic and cultural identity, a vivid example of how outsiders shaped the heart of this ancient society. 2. The Berbers, guardians of the desert. To the west, the Berbers, ancestors of today's North African tribes, also left their mark. Their migration patterns linked them to the Saharan trade routes connecting Egypt to the broader African continent. Over centuries, the Berbers became part of the Egyptian fabric, blending cultures and bloodlines. Imagine the diversity in the markets of Thebes, goods, languages, and faces from all over North Africa. 3. The Natufians, roots of civilization. But the story goes even deeper, back to the Natufians, one of the earliest agricultural societies in the Levant. Genetic studies link them directly to the foundations of Egyptian civilization. These were the people who planted the seeds of farming, literally and figuratively, in the cradle of human history. They carried with them not just tools and knowledge, but traits still visible in Egyptian DNA today. Egypt isn't just a place in history, it's a cornerstone of biblical narrative. The story of Joseph, who rose from slavery to power, paints Egypt as a land of refuge and opportunity. When famine struck Canaan, Jacob and his sons found shelter in Egypt, weaving the Israelites into its history. Genesis 41 verse 50. And let's not forget Joseph's marriage to Asenath, an Egyptian woman. Their sons Ephraim and Manasseh would go on to lead tribes of Israel. This isn't just history, it's heritage, proof of how Egypt and the Bible are forever intertwined. Egypt was a stage where God's plan unfolded, making its people and culture inseparable from the Judeo-Christian tradition. Now let's look at how the Egyptians saw themselves. Their murals and sculptures tell a vivid story. On temple walls and papyrus scrolls, they depicted their skin tones as a spectrum, from light brown to deep bronze. These weren't just artistic choices, they were reflections of reality. Egypt was a melting pot where sub-Saharan Africans, Semitic peoples, and Mediterranean groups blended over millennia. Imagine walking through Karnak or Luxor and seeing statues of rulers whose features carry echoes of Africa and the Middle East, side by side. Their art reveals a society proud of its diversity, a mosaic of faces that reflected its place at the crossroads of 3 continents. But here's what's even more fascinating. This diversity wasn't just a product of geography, it was intentional. Egypt embraced its role as a bridge between worlds. But how does this ancient diversity resonate with us today? What lessons can we learn from a civilization that thrived by blending the old and the new? Now that we've explored the incredible cultural and genetic intersections that defined ancient Egypt, it's time to ask the bigger question. What does this mean for us today? How does the DNA of a long-lost civilization continue to shape the story of humanity? Let's uncover the modern implications of this ancient diversity. The link between ancient and modern Egyptians. Imagine walking the bustling streets of modern Cairo, surrounded by the echoes of a civilization that once built the pyramids and ruled the ancient world. Here's the question. How much of the ancient Egyptians' DNA still runs through the veins of today's Egyptians? The answer might surprise you. For thousands of years, Egypt has stood at the crossroads of history. From its towering monuments to the timeless Nile River, Egypt has always been a land of connection, a meeting point for Africa, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. But as empires rose and fell, so too did the genetic tapestry of its people evolve. Ancient Egyptians were a diverse and dynamic population, shaped by migrations from sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. Their genetic diversity mirrored the vibrant cultural melting pot of their time. But by the 7th century, something extraordinary happened. a transformation that forever altered the DNA of Egypt. The Arab conquests brought waves of migration, intermarriage, and cultural integration. Over time, these changes reshaped Egypt's demographic profile. Today, modern Egyptians show stronger genetic ties to Arab populations, particularly those from the Levant. This shift reflects the profound influence of Islamic expansion and centuries of interconnectedness with the Arab world. Here's a fascinating thought. While modern Egyptians share many genetic traits with their Arab neighbors, their DNA still carries echoes of the ancient Egyptians, an unbroken thread connecting the past to the present. Let's compare the past and present. Ancient Egyptians had a genetic mosaic reflecting migrations from 3 continents. Studies show their DNA included contributions from sub-Saharan Africa in the south, Middle Eastern populations in the north, Mediterranean influences from the west. In contrast, modern Egyptians have a more homogeneous genetic makeup. This shift highlights how historical events such as Arab rule, trade, and cultural assimilation narrowed the diversity that once defined ancient Egypt. But here's the catch. This isn't a loss. It's a transformation. Egypt's genetic evolution tells the story of a nation adapting to its place in the world, becoming a bridge between Africa and the Middle East. What about biblical connections? Here's something even more intriguing. Did you know the Bible offers clues about Egypt's ancient lineage? According to Genesis 10:6, Egypt's ancestor was Mizraim, a descendant of Ham. Indeed, studies reveal links between ancient Egyptian DNA and populations like the Natufians, one of the earliest settlers in the Levant. These connections not only confirm biblical accounts, but also underscore Egypt's role as a genetic crossroads. So how do we reconcile this? Egypt is located in Africa, but its modern identity is deeply tied to the Arab world. Does this make Egypt African, Arab, or something entirely unique? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And there you have it, the incredible story of the DNA of the ancient Egyptians. From their origins as a genetic mosaic of Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, to the transformation that made modern Egypt a vital part of the Arab world, we've uncovered a story that spans thousands of years. It's a tale of migration, interconnection, and the resilience of a civilization that continues to inspire us today. But here's the big question. What does this all mean for how we see Egypt, both ancient and modern? Is Egypt's identity tied more to Africa or to the Arab world? Or is it something entirely unique, standing as a bridge between these cultures? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. Do you think the DNA findings change how we should view ancient Egypt? What surprised you the most? And what questions are you still curious about? Let's keep this conversation going, because history isn't just about the past. It's about how it shapes our present and future. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey into the heart of one of history's greatest civilizations. Your time and curiosity mean everything to us, and we hope you've learned something new and exciting today. If you enjoyed this video, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with friends, family, or anyone who loves uncovering the mysteries of the past. And if you want to explore even more fascinating stories, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Together, let's unravel the threads of history, one story at a time. Stay tuned for more content, including deep dives into other ancient civilizations, the connections between history and faith, and the stories that shape our world. And if there's a topic you'd love us to cover, let us know in the comments. Until next time, may your curiosity lead you to new discoveries, and may God bless you all. See you in the next video.